Dear students, welcome all of you. Today we are learning a very interesting story, The Fun They Had. And the speciality of this story, all stories we have learned in past and in previous classes. All stories have happened in the past and we have learned in the past time. But this story has happened in future. And we will understand the story, The Fun They Had. The story has written by Isaac Asimov, a well-known science fiction author who was a professor in Boston University, and he was a professor of biochemistry. He has written near about 500 books and so many very interesting stories, and one of his very famous and very well-known story, that is The Fun They Had. We will start this story with listening some words, because you will listen and you can practice these words. Listen to pronounce these words and practice saying the properly yourself. Grandfather, geography, satisfactory, superior, pronouncing, betcha, nonchalantly, mechanical, calculated, disappoint. These are some words we will learn in the story. We begin with story. The story has happened in future, and that date is 17 May 2157. This is the setting of the story, and some characters are there. So we'll begin the story. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. Margie, a small girl, she was writing her diary, and on the page headed 17 May 2157, she wrote, Today Tommy found a real book. And that diary is the head of the page of the diary. Today Tommy found a real book. It was a very interesting thing for her, and she has written. And she has written this page on computer, not on any diary page. Further, she has written, it was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all the stories were printed on the paper. And once, Margie's grandfather told her, that time when grandfather was a very small child or a small boy, that time all the storybooks were printed on the page. But nowadays they don't have such books. They turned the pages which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, And they turned the page, that the real books page, and the pages were very yellow because it was a very old book, and crinkly, that can be folded and that can be easily torn, and it was awfully funny to read. All the words stood still instead of moving that they were supposed to on screen, And nowadays they are reading the books on the screen, and on the screen the words are moving, and words are going, words are moving, or words are pop up. But on the book, the words and the sentences were stood still, not moving, no motion. And then when they turned to page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it first time. And if they turned the page, they went on the next page, and they again came back to the next page, all the lines were same, nothing was removed, and it was very funny things for that. because nowadays they are reading sentences, and if you read the next sentence, the previous sentence will be removed. Ghee, said Tommy, and very that you call hurriedly, Tommy said, "Ghee, what a waste! When you are through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. What is a waste? If you read once a book, what will happen? You will throw it away. No use of that, I guess. Our television screen must have had a million of books on it, and it good for plenty more. Now my television screen had many books, millions of books, and I can add more books also. But it is not waste. I cannot throw it away. I wouldn't throw it away. I can read again and again. But if the books are printed and if you read once, what will happen about that book? Definitely it would have been thrown out. Same with mine, said Margie. She was 11 years and hadn't seen many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. Yes, do you understand the two characters of the main characters of the story? Margie and Tommy. Margie is 11 years. And they were talking about the old book. That book was found by Tommy. And Tommy was 13 years old. And Margie was 11 years old. And Margie did not know many telebooks, which books were uploaded in the television, and the books were read by both of them. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house." He pointed, looking, because he was busy in reading, in the attic. And Margie asked her, "Where did you find this book?" "Yes, there, an attic." And he pointed. "What is it about?" "School." Margie was scornful. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." And Tommy told her this book is about school. And very scornful, she asked, "School? What is there to write about school? Nothing is about the school. I hate school." Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. An 11 years old girl, Margie, she did not like the school, and she hated school. And now she hated more. Why? Because her mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse. And she was not doing well. She was not learning from the geography lesson. And her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. And her mother felt that something is fault in her daughter. So she sent her to the county inspector. County inspector? As like a superior teacher, as like an inspector who checks the school, any officer who visits the school, as a county inspector who takes care of the students' learning and the teachers' teaching. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. The county inspector is a little red man, red face, and he has a big box with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, and then took a teacher apart. And he has given an apple to Margie, and he took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how, all right. And after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and questions were asked. Thought that it would not become together, it wouldn't know how to put together again. But after an hour, it was completely the same, which was already there. And the questions were asked, lessons were displayed on the screen. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put the homework and the test paper. Why she did not like the school? Because every time she has to complete her homework and she has put in the slot. There was a place where she could put her homework on that machine. She always had to write them out in a punch code they made her learn when she was 6 years old. And she has started her learning when she was 6 years old, and she had a teacher of mechanical teacher. And every time she punch code, she made a punch code and she started her learning at the age of 6. And the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. And when she completes her homework and uh, takes her examination, at that time the mechanical teacher has given her grade or marks within a fraction of a second. The inspector has smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. The inspector had smiled and he was finished to do his task, and he patted on the Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault." And the county inspector said that, "Ma'am, it is not a little girl's fault. Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones is a mother of Margie. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick, and the learning by the mechanical teacher and the speed is fixed before start any lesson." And the county inspector found that the speed of that geography lesson was little bit quick, means fast, geared up fast. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10 years level. Now I have made the changes in that speed, and I made it a little bit small, or we can average speed of 10 years level. Actually the overall progress is quite geared a little too quick. I think the speed of geography lesson is little bit fast, that's why it happened. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Now I have reduced the speed of lesson, and I have made the speed of 10-year level students. Actually the overall progress is quite satisfactory. Mrs. Jones, your daughter is very good and she is doing her progress in studying. Don't worry. And he patted Margie's head again. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. But Margie was not happy. She was very disappointed. Why? Because she thought that her teacher would take the teacher away altogether. Means she was thinking that her teacher should go away from her, or teacher should be repaired somewhere. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely, and she had heard that from the Tommy. Tommy's history teacher, near about 1 month, it was away from him because the whole lesson was blanked. Means there was no lesson on the that screen. That's why it was repaired. And Margie was thinking that her teacher would away from her, but it hadn't happened. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" Because she was thinking the school is not good. And why would anyone write about school? Because there is nothing interesting to write about the school. Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. Superior eyes because Tommy is a 13 years old and he was senior than Margie. Because it's not our kind of school. Stupid. Stupid, we are talking about not our school. It was a very different school. This is an old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And Tommy was telling that school was not today's school. This is not now school. This school is a very old school, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And he added loftily, pronouncing the words carefully. Centuries ago. Not now, I am talking about centuries ago. Margie was hurt. Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago. And she was little bit nervous and she asked, I don't know what school they had in that time. She read the book over his shoulder for a while, then said, anyway, they had a teacher. Okay, then anyway, in the old time, they had a teacher. Surely, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man. And they are talking about the teacher. Now, they have a mechanical teacher and they are talking about the school where the man was a teacher, and they are curiously asking to each other, a man, how could a man be a teacher? A man, how could a man be a teacher? Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions. And that man was a teacher and he was giving information to the boys and girls, and he gave the homework, he asked them some questions. A man isn't smart enough because they both are believing that the robot, the mechanical teacher is smarter than human being, and human being is not so smart. So man isn't smart enough because man is a ordinary the person. He was not as smart as a mechanical teacher. Sure he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. Yes, and they were talking about the old teacher. He knows almost as much. I betcha. Yes, sure, I know. Because I have heard my grandfathers talking, and my father told me about such type of teacher in a past time. Margie wasn't prepared to dispute that. She said, I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me. And Margie was thinking that if the man was a teacher, now we have a mechanical teacher, and mechanical teacher is a setup in the house. I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me. Oh, if that time the man was a teacher, I would not allow him to come in my house and to teach because a man is a strange person. Tommy screamed with laughter. You don't know much, Margie. The teacher didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there. Margie, the teacher was not coming to school, but not coming to home, but there was a special place, and that place is called a school, and all the kids went there. And all the kids learned the same things? Sure, if they were the same age. Yes, the same age students, and they were learning the same things. But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl. It teaches and that each kid has to be taught differently. My mother said that, or my mother says that every student is unique, every student is different, and teacher should be adjusted and he should be teach differently to every student. So what happened that time? If the same teacher was teaching the same thing to all students, do they take care of the individual difference of the students? Just the same, they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. If you don't like to read the books, if you don't want to know about the that time school, don't worry. I didn't say I didn't like it, Margie said quickly. She wanted to read about those funny schools. Actually, Margie was very fascinated to know about such type of school or the old school. They weren't even half finished when Margie's mother called, Margie, school. Margie looked up, not at Mama. And they were talking about the old school. That time, Margie's mother, Mrs. Jones, called her, Margie, school, it's school's time. And she said, no, Mama. Now, said Mrs. Jones, and it's probably time for Tommy too. Yes, this is a school time for Tommy also, and he was also, so you have to come here. Margie said to Tommy, can I read the book some more with you after school? Yes, now they are departing from the place, and after the school, Margie wanted to read the book. Maybe, he said nonchalantly. He walked away whistling, the dusty tucked beneath his arm, and he has taken the dusty book beneath his arm and he went. Margie went into the classroom. It was right next to her bedroom, and her classroom was not in the school but the same in the house, and there was a next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday, because her mother said little girls learn better if they learn at regular hours, and mechanical teacher was ready on the particular time the whole week except Saturday and Sunday, because Saturday and Sunday she had holiday, and the all remaining days there was a particular time. On that time the mechanical teacher is ready to teach Margie, and Margie regularly learned so many things from the mechanical teacher. The screen was lit up and it said, today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. And as soon as she entered the room, the mechanical teacher, there was a line on the screen. The screen, that displayed screen was that today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fraction. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot. And the instruction was given. I have given yesterday's homework, so complete it and put in the slot in a particular place. Margie did so with a sigh, and she was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. Though she was in with the mechanical teacher and she has put the homework in the slot, but she was thinking about the old school where her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the classroom, going home together at the end of the day. And she was thinking, oh, how joy was there, how wonderful the moment was there, because all the neighborhood boys and girls coming to school, shouting, sitting together, going home together, and laughing and chatting to each other. They learned the same things, so they could help one another with the homework and talk about it. The whole day they learned the same thing, and end of the day, if they have homework, they could help to each other to solve their homework. And the teachers were people. Now teachers are mechanical teachers. Teachers are machines, but once the teachers were the people. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen when we add fraction 1 upon 2 and 1 upon 4. Margie was thinking about how the kids must have love in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had, and she was thinking how the generation, how the people were lucky because they had a lot of fun in the school. And nowadays, and she was thinking, she was realizing, or she was experiencing that she was learning from the school. So this is the story, end of the story. Thank you.